Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Muslim women have been stripped their own freedom to wear their hijab and clothes as they want in many non-Muslim countries. The conflict over one woman's choice to cover her head comes in the wake of controversy surrounding an amendment passed by the French Senate that would ban girls under 18 from wearing the hijab in public. As part of the proposed anti-separatism bill, it was presented alongside amendments that would also prevent mothers from wearing hijabs on their children's school trips and would ban the burkini, a full-body swimsuit. On Instagram, Atlantic Ibtihaj Muhammad shared a post suggesting the Senate's amendment dedicated Islamic phobia is deepening in France. With that said, we would like to discuss about the prohibition of hijab wearing among Muslim women in daily activities in non-Muslim countries. These are our panels for the forum today, which are Nurul Husna Nabila binti Muhammad Nasruddin, Farah Nabiha binti Muhammad Nasir, Nur Hikmah binti Muhammad Fauzi, Nur Afika binti Muhammad Suhaimi, and Nur Amira Shafika binti Zulkifli. Welcome to our wonderful panel. My name is Julia Edina Izzati binti Jimmy Shadisha, and we will start our discussion with the fundamental of aurah coverage among Muslim women. I'll give this question to Miss Farah, our first panel.
So thank you for the question, Miss Julia. So firstly, according to the Arabic dictionary, the basic meaning of aurah is embarrassment or shame. It is a term that alludes the damage and inadequacies that must be protected from exposure in order to prevent shame or disgrace. As defined by Islamic law, aurah refers to specific portions of the human body that must be concealed or shielded from the view of others who are not permitted to see them, such as non-mahram. When it comes to Islam, all food and clothes are permitted unless they are specifically prohibited by the Sharia law, which is not based on divine law. So in this case, I will be emphasizing the fundamental of aurah coverage, especially among Muslim women. So Muslims are reminded of the necessity of safeguarding one's dignity and morality, since these qualities will decide their destiny in their afterlife. Following Allah's law and avoiding haram is a must. Specifically, Islam stresses the significance of guarding oneself against committing sins when it comes to gender relationships. A great deal of concern was expressed about the possibility that open relationship between men and females might result in adultery, which would undermine the order of the whole Muslim population. Other than that, Islamic law requires Muslim women to dress appropriately and cover their aurah in accordance with Allah's mandate, which includes wearing robes, headscarf, veils, dresses, slack, and fabric drapes, and they are also permitted to do so in the accordance with their own cultural traditions. The majority of scholars agree that Muslim women should cover their bodies except for their faces and palms while they pray. In Islam, it is acceptable to dress in a dignified, loose, unsexy, unglamorous, or non-provocative manner. The clothes also should be thick rather than thin, and bright colors should be avoided. In this issue, it is difficult to execute Islamic law in the fields of Islamic doctrine, worship, and Islamic science, particularly when it comes to Islamic clothes in non-Muslim countries, because of the desire of individuals to adopt work culture as an identity of promiscuity. Thereby, many of them would breaking religious, social, and cultural principles. Many instances of diminishing religious and cultural values in attire, which used to be highly regarded by society, have been discovered in recent years, For instance, based on Surah An-Nur, verse 31, we acknowledge that it is quite apparent that covering the aura is necessary after one reaches puberty. Basically, it is a requirement for all Muslim, just as regular prayer and alms giving are. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Farah. I would like to highlight that we as Muslim women would wear modestly and cover their heads with hijab to show their devotion to Allah, which is God. Let's start with the next second panel, which is Miss Hikmah. The question is the prohibition of hijab wearing among Muslim women in non-Muslim countries and countries and their women's right according to Sharia perspective. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Okay, thank you, Miss Julia, for asking a good question. To answer the question, I think we need to take a look back after 9/11 incident happened where it gave bad stereotype and bad impression toward Islam. The headscarf is considered as a disadvantageous when looking for a job, entering any public places because wearing a hijab or headscarf make it clear that they are Muslim, right? Even though United Nations Charter in relation to freedom of religion, Article 18 states everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief and freedom either alone or in community with others and in public or private to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship and observance. However, in contrast to what is stated in the United Nations Charter, the European Court practice of granting freedom of thoughts, religion and conscience was breached in several European nations such as France that prohibited the headscarf as a religious symbol. Friendly in addressing bans on head covering, Turkish and French courts have failed to analyze the importance of the headscarf to the women who wear it. Instead, the judges there just only rely on incorrect perception about the women who cover to support the prohibition. It is because there's a root problem of understanding religious rules by society. In religious rule and ritual, people usually understand the how or at least to understand the how, but they are unconcerned to the why. In simple word, it means that many non-Muslim people tend to look at the surface instead look at the root of why in Islam women need to wear the hijab. Like for instance, 140 years ago, Islam elevated women position and offered them the rightful place in society. Islam expects women to maintain their status, while Western narrative of women right is nothing more than a hidden form of exploitation of her body, degradation of her intellect, and denying of her honor. Women are said to have been uplifted by Western culture, but on the contrary, it has reduced women to the level of concubine or mistresses. Moreover, from Sharia perspective, the headscarf or veil does not degrade a woman but uplift a woman and protects her modesty and chastity. In addition, the hijab is a sacred and private space indicator that symbolize gender equality, modesty and respect for the sacred privacy that is dear to Allah. It is clear and public display of female Muslim identity. Also, in Surah Al-Ahzab, verse 59, where mafhum of this ayat emphasize that the dress code prescribed by the Quran allows the female believer to openly and visually display her identity as a Muslim, as well as protect her from harassment when she has to go out in public. I would like to end my answer by saying that regardless of the negative image of Muslim women, we must constantly remember that from a Sharia viewpoint, Allah has honored Muslim women us by giving them words in reference to God rather than in regard to men. I hope I answered the question given. I'll pass to the moderator back.
Thank you, Ms. Hikmah. I can say that the history that happened in 9/11 in the USA have severe make the people there seen that Muslims or people who wear a hijab are terrorists. And even with the United Nations have the rules of freedom of religion, but application, we can see that the breach of this rule doesn't apply in today's society. Women being judged because of their little knowledge towards the religion of Islam. Okay, the next panel is Afika. Could you explain the reaction of prohibition wearing hijab in a daily activities of Muslim women in global countries? I would like to pass to our third panel, Miss Afika.
All right, thank you to the moderator. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Islam is seen by many Europeans as posing a larger danger to their idols than other religious traditions. Okay, prejudice like these are not insignificant. They frequently reflect and affect law and regulation and practices. Okay, unfavorable ideas and impression may lead to religious clothing, prohibition, and resistance to most building projects, and intolerance against immigrants from Muslim majority nations. Alright, besides that, the restriction may have a negative impact on schooling for students who prefer to wear a headscarf at school, since it may push them to option for online study or quit out. Okay, for individuals who do not want to wear the veil but live in a pro-veil atmosphere, okay, however, the restriction may have the opposite impact, since it relieves them of having to wear a sign they do not want to wear at school. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Ines, 28 years old, Algerian immigrant, worked as a computer engineer in Algeria before relocating to France with her husband, who share her professional and ethnic background. Okay, Ines is also who wear a headscarf and speak great French, which set her apart from her husband in the labour market. Okay, even though her professional qualifications were acknowledged by her interviewer, she spent a year seeking for employment and receiving rejection because of her headscarf. Okay, when she made the decision to establish her own company, Ines they demonstrate how a lack of career opportunities for women with degree who follow Islam who wear a high hijab might compel them to seek alternative employment within them. Alright, to prevent prejudice, Muslim women frequently employ deflection method. Some women seek professional pleasure and recognition from their religious or ethnic communities. Okay, others decide to start their own firm and become entrepreneur. Some of the women have taken off their headscarf. Okay, for some women, this might be a challenging personal decision. I think that's all from me. Be back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Afika. It is interesting that an engineer who have an academic background wearing a headscarf have to get backlash from her clothes. This question her credibility. It's actually disrespectful for her because if, her has been studying for many years, but just because of her what she wears, question her credibility. All right. The next panel is Miss Amira and Miss Husna. What is the conclusion and some recommendations, which I would like to pass to Miss Amira and Miss Husna.
Okay, thank you, Miss Julia. So, if you face prejudice because you wear a hijab, one approach to deal with it is to cultivate supportive network of peers, lecturers, and coworkers. It's also critical to enlist the aid of those in positions of authority and management who can contribute the development of an atmosphere in which people value and appreciate one another's differences. Promoting religious literacy and inter-religious communications has been shown to avoid dispute and manage religious diversity in organizations. Besides, making religious diversity visible and initiating a discourse about it in organizations is considered a step toward respecting religious diversity in their rule and procedure. Islamic religious institutions play a crucial role in assisting Muslim women who wear the hijab to overcome prejudice as well as fostering their growth on the personal and societal levels. This had been demonstrated in recent Catalan cases that had been gained attentions in the news. In this sense, the findings are consistent with earlier studies on the role of faith-based organization in the social inclusion of unrepresented community groups. I think Ms. Husna wants to add another recommendations. I will pass to her.
All right. Thank you, Miss Amira. So I would like to add other recommendations about the issue that has been discussing right now. Right, for me, encouragement program should be also given as to educate students and employees regarding women's rights and religion's right in the workplace or at schools. The purpose of this encouragement program is to dispel myth and misconception associated with the wearings of hijab. Thus, from my point of view, these such of activities may be particularly useful in business that have reputations for practicing discrimination based on employees' external views of religious observance. Moreover, raising the levels of public awareness will also be beneficial. For example, hundreds of letters of support from readers from various backgrounds have been sent in response to the publications of Muslim women's experience on internet platform. Hence, in order to combat the increase of xenophobia, incitement to hatred, violence and harassments against women wearing headscarf, inclusive places, platforms or medium should be provided to those who wish to voice their rights without restricting their rights to speak. I think that's all from me. We back to our Miss Moderator, Miss Julia.
Okay, thank you, Miss Amira and Miss Husna. I can highlight here that our supporting network, people around us who appreciate us as we are, can uplift our mood and also give the motivation too. Some misconception of Islam and why Muslim women wear what they wear, we have to increase their awareness towards the reason why we do so, and the Islamophobia cannot make our reason to vote, our rights towards one politician campaign. Okay, as we have discussed, I can see clearer that no matter where you are from and what your background is, you have the freedom to wear what you want as you have the consent to do so. That is all we have today. We hope it will be beneficial for you. Wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much.